Greetings, everyone. My name is Sanjiv Venkatram, and welcome to another edition of User Delight with Microsoft Technology. In this episode, we'll talk about managing security in Power Apps and SharePoint relative to the business. So, we're talking about business governance and business security. So, let's head on over to SharePoint and Power Apps to know more. Thank you very much. So, we are on our SharePoint on a SharePoint site here. This is called Power Platform Enablement. I'm just going to copy this URL for reference because I'll need it later. So let us go create a new list. And then we're going to create a blank list over here. We're going to call it Business Master Business Unit. Master Business Unit. And I'm going to actually save this list, right? The name of the list. It's going to go create a list. And we are going to reference the title column to go ahead and enter the business units. Now, clearly, this being a master table, we would actually fill this out or manage the elements of this master table from the app, from the Power App. But in this case, in the interest of time, I'm just going to go enter the values, right? So I'm just going to say edit in grid view. And here I'm going to say business unit A, then business, if I can spell it right, business unit B, then business unit C, and business unit D. Okay, so this is my business unit table. I mean, you could have other qualifiers over here as sub business unit, so on and so forth, but for me, the primary key in the master business unit is this title column. Okay, so I'm going to say exit grid view. So this is going to be my business unit reference table. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on home again, and I'm actually going to enter another table here. I'm going to say new list, and here I'm going to call this master security. Master security. I'll leave it as master security. You can call it master security profiles, whatever, fine. I'm going to call it profiles, security profiles, and I'm going to create this. Here, this is going to be a combination of the business units and the people who are going to be responsible for each of the business units. As an example, here I'm going to basically say the title is the business unit, and in another column, I'm going to basically say text column, and I am going to call this email, right? I'm going to say email. So this is where I'm going to copy the email IDs of people who are going to be represented by these business units. You can copy the names, so on and so forth, but for me, the most important thing right now are the emails, right? So I'm going to save this here, okay? And you can actually have the first name, the last name, the title, all of this can be captured here, okay? So once I have these two, I'm actually going to go to my Power Apps, and I'm going to fill this out from my Power Apps. So I'm going to go to my Power Apps here, and I'm going to actually copy this sheet over. So I'm going to go to the three dots here. I'm going to say duplicate screen, and I'm going to actually call the screen as screen SCN security, okay? And I'm going to just do I need this button? Fine, I'm going to actually say SS, the timer here. I'm going to rename all these. TMR refers to the timer, BTN refers to button. I'm just going to change everything here to SS. SS means security, screen security. I should rename this as well, screen security, okay? And then the image as well. It is a best practice to name things as soon as you get to that particular control or the sheet. Otherwise, you will never actually rename this. It's a best practice to rename it. And then for me, SCN is screen, TMR is timer, LBL is label, BTN is button, IMG is image, and so on and so forth, okay? So I'm here. What I'm going to do in this sheet is, first of all, I'm going to go to add data, and then I'm going to search for SharePoint and point, and then I'm going to connect to my list here, which is basically Power Platform enablement. And then if I type master here, so I've got my master, let me see here, master business unit. And then if I scroll down, master security profile. So I'm going to connect to both of these, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a form here, edit form. And then I'm going to put it on the right hand side. The idea here is to actually go ahead and then fill out the security profiles, right? So I'm going to put it down like so, move these buttons up. I could basically reuse these buttons, or maybe I could get rid of these buttons and use the drop down from what I have elsewhere. I'll come to that in a second. So I'm going to rename this as form SS, and then move this down like so, make a little bit of space, and then make this, one column, and I'm going to connect here to master security profiles. So this goes away and populates the security profiles, the title and the email here. So I'm gonna, maybe if you want to, you can identify this properly, like so, with a different color, whatever. And then I'm gonna add a data table so that I can view whatever I enter in the form, right? And then I'm gonna move this data table as well down below, like so, right next to the form, and like so. And then I'm going to connect to master security profiles here as well, right? So that's that, and I'm going to call this data table underscore SS. Let me also call this form underscore SS, okay? So I've got my form, I've got my data table. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this form. I'm going to go to this email data card, unlock it, and I'm actually going to open this. I'll make this a little bigger like so, okay? I'll make it a little bigger. Maybe I'll call this about 200 in height. And then I'm going to move this data card value down below like so here, okay? Now on top here, inside this email data card, I'm going to go ahead and insert a text box. So I'm going to say text input like so, and then this text input comes in, so I'll call it txt user, right, underscore SS. So this text box is where I'm going to search for the username, okay? So I'm going to make this bigger like so, and then this data card value here, I'll make it such that people won't be able to edit it. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go to display mode, and I'm going to make the display mode view only. So this is going to be view only. People won't be able to edit this, okay? But in this data card, what I'm going to do is I'm going to point to, well, I need to do something else before I do that. I'm going to go to add data, and I'm going to search for a connector to Office 365. So I'm going to go to Office, and then you see an Office 365 users connector, which enables me to search for users within the organization, within your particular tenant, and bring whatever is in the user table. So such as first name, last name, display name, title, email, so on and so forth. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to select my account, and then this goes away and adds the Office 365 users, okay? So in the data card value, here, instead of it pointing to the text property, if I go to the text property, where is this, or the default property, where should I go to the default? Instead of it defaulting to whatever is there in SharePoint as parent.default, so I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to invoke the Office 365 user function. So I'm going to basically say Office 365 users dot, the property that I'm going to look for is search user. So when I open the bracket here, it is a list of items. It is going to ask me for the search term, which is the name of the person. So over here, I'm going to point it to the txt user text box. And it's going to ask me for the items. So I'm going to say, give me the top, the one item. That's all I need, right? So let us execute this. You'll know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go to search term, and then here I'll say txt, and it shows me my text box dot text because it's a text property. Then the syntax is telling me that the next item in the list is actually the number. So I'm going to actually say comma, and then top, I just need the first item of that particular user. And then I'm going to close the bracket, and I'm going to close the bracket to search here. Now this is going to give me an entire table, but I don't want a table. What I want is the first item here. So I'm going to basically say, give me the first row, because I just need that one email ID of the person first. Then close the bracket here, and then this says it is actually a line item or a record, right? From a table now, when I said first, we went to a record. So here I'm going to say, give me the properties of this table or of this record. So I'm going to say dot, I don't need the city, country, I actually need the mail. So I'm going to click on the mail. So now this data card value is going to give me the mail of anybody that I actually type here up on the top, right? So I'm all set. I'm going to need a drop down or a button to be able to enter information here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my other master screen. I'm going to copy this guy, Control C. I'm going to go over to my security screen, paste this here, and then I'm going to basically say, when I click on change here, when I click on this what do you call the drop down, I'm going to change the name of the drop down. Drop down is DD, so I'm going to say DD_SS. So when the drop down is a new request, then make the form, and this form is SS, make the form new, right? SS. And then when it is save, you make it SS here. And then likewise for the edit request. And then in the delete, basically remove from my master profiles, security profiles, ID is whatever is in the data table .selected.id. So I'm good to go here. So I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to save my app. Okay, so that's saving it. I'm going to play this. I'm going to basically say new request. So the form opens up. I'm going to say business unit. And frankly, this business unit here, let me do that as well. And I'll show you what I'm going to do shortly. I'll unlock this title data card. I'm going to, inside this title data card, I'm going to insert a drop down. So I'm going to say drop, and then it shows me my drop down. For reference purposes, I'm going to show it to you here. And I'm going to actually say DD_SS. So this is going to actually, let me see if there's another drop down. No. Country name already being used. Okay. So yeah, there is a DD here, right, for this drop down. So I'm going to call this DDBU business unit _SS. Okay. So the idea here is this drop down is going to refer to the master country. So I'm going to actually go up here. I'm going to select master, not master country, sorry, the master business unit. And in the value, I'm going to go to the title. So now I can see the business units, and I'm going to basically say, if this is business unit A, the data card value here should refer to that particular business unit. But also, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to say, remove this parent.default. In fact, I can actually retain it. And then when I go to this new request here, this drop down here, hang with me. When I go to a new request, I'm going to do yet another thing. I'm going to add a variable. I'm going to set a variable var mode. I'm going to call this not form mode in this column. I'm just going to call it mode. and then I'm going to make this 0, okay? And then I'm going to do the same thing for the next one down here. I'm going to set the, when it is actually a save request, I'm going to set it to 1. Then when I go to the edit mode here, I'm going to actually set it to 0 back again, okay? I think that should be good enough. New request, the mode's going to be 0. For save, it's going to be 1. For edit, it's going to be back at 0, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this data card value, open this, and I'm going to say use a switch statement, and I'm going to switch the var mode. I'm going to switch the var mode, comma. If it is 0, then you give me whatever is in the ddbuss dot title, okay? So if it is a new mode, then show me this business unit drop down. If it is 1, then give me whatever it is in SharePoint that I've already entered, okay? So that's all I'm going to do here. And then I'm also going to go to this drop down, and I'm going to go to the visible property here, and then I'm going to basically remove the true and say var mode is equal to 0. If it is going to be a new request, then show me this drop down. But if it's actually if it is in a save mode, then don't show me this, because you know I don't want people to be entering it when it's actually when the form is saved, okay? So if I play this request, and if I go to a save request, nothing's out here. If I go to new, then I can see the business unit and I can see the email here, right? So I can go to the email item here, and I'm basically going to say Adele. So when I say Adele, it shows me the email ID of the person, isn't it? So now I can actually go ahead and then save this request. And as you can see, this line item has actually been saved, right? So you've got business unit A, and Adele has access to this. I'm going to select this particular line item. I'm going to actually edit this request, and nothing happens. That probably is the case, because if I were to select this edit request, edit form, it should make the form, put the form in the edit mode. The reason why it probably doesn't show anything here is because this got created outside of these. So I have to go delete this. Let me do that right now. I'm going to go to security profiles here. And then there is this one particular line item which is not referring to anything. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. And then I'm going to go back over to the Power Apps, and then go to my data sources here, and then I'm going to refresh this here. So this is going to be clean. There you go. So now I'm going to go to a new request, and I'm going to go to business unit A is fine. Well, let me go to business unit B. Here I'm going to say the administrator, admin, is responsible for this. So I'm going to go ahead and save this request, okay? And then I'm going to add another request over here, new request, and I'm going to go over to, well, let me do one more thing. If I were to go to this drop down, and if I go to save request, I have submit form, reset form, and then I'm actually viewing the form. So the save should actually change the form. Let's look at that later, okay? So play this. Now I'm going to go to a new request, and I'm going to basically say business unit C. So the value changes here. I'm going to look for, let us say, admin again, and then it shows me my email. I'm going to go save this request. So this goes away and saves the business unit C. We'll actually have to investigate as to why the form mode doesn't actually change to the view form over here. It should technically. We can look at that later. And then the last one I'm going to say is business unit D, and I'm going to add Adele again. So Adele has access to business unit A and business unit D, and I have access to business unit B and business unit C, okay? So I'm going to basically go ahead and save this request. So now you see that A, B, C, and D are the business units, and then there are two people who are responsible for A and D, and there are two people who are responsible for B and C. Okay, so once we have this information, now I can go over to the login screen and I can add a few buttons here. So I'm going to copy this button over. So I'm going to say Control C and Control V, and I'm going to put this button out here like so in the center. I'm going to actually remove this navigate here, and then I'm going to basically say, I'm going to basically call this button as button BTN BUA, okay? And then on the right, I'll say business unit A or BUA. I'll say BUA. And then I'm going to copy and pick Control C, Control V, paste this over again on the other side. This is going to be business unit B. And then I'll say over here, double click, and then let us say BUB. Then copy this over, Control C, Control V, like so. So this is going to be business unit C, right? So let us call this business unit C, and then Control C, Control V this, put it down here. So this is going to be business unit D. So the idea here is based on who's actually logged in, the buttons should actually be either gray or should be blue to go into that particular business unit, right? So, and you know, people should be able to access only their business units. That's the whole goal, right? So what I'm going to do is, in order to do this, I'm going to go to the app property and then the app control, and I'm going to go to the on start property, right? So we have defined a few things out here. So the user email, user image, you know, some colors, so on and so forth. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear collect, right? What is clear collect? Collection is a variable, much like, you know, dark blue here is a variable with a particular color. It's a global variable. Likewise, a collection is a variable with a table, right? So in this case, I'm going to actually give this a name. So I'm going to say call users, collection of users, and then I'm going to actually say collect everything that is in this business unit table. Collect all the line items that are there in this business unit table, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say for all. I'm going to say for all, and then open the bracket, right? And I'm going to open the bracket for all what? For all of the master security profiles, comma, right? And then you go ahead and you collect, right? I'm going to say open the bracket, and then I'm going to collect something called BU, and in the title of this collection here is going to be BU, and in the BU I'm going to say give me the title, right? Give me the title, title, okay, and then comma, I want the email, and I'm going to basically say mail. I think it was called mail, or was it called email? It was called email, right? So I'm going to say email, and then I'm going to close this, you know, the curly bracket, close the bracket for the for all statement, which is nothing more than a for loop, and I'm going to actually collect. So when I run this in a collection called call users, the for statement is going to loop through all the items inside the table, and it's going to put it in a column called BU with the title, with the titles, and then the email column is going to create an email column with all the email IDs here. Okay, so that's the meaning of this. So I'm going to run this now. I'm going to go to app on start, and then I'm going to say run on start. So what then happens is if I go to my data sources here, or if I go to my variables here, and then if I go to the collection, you see now that it's actually collected a table called business units and email, right? So the goal here is, if the user, if the var user, you see, if the var user email, if this is in the table, if this is in this collection, if the var user email is in this collection, then show me the business unit that corresponds to that, right? Is the whole logic. So I can basically go to the business unit over here, business unit A, and then I go to the display mode property. I can go to the display mode. Where is my display mode? I can go to the display mode property. Right now it shows that it's in the edit mode, right? It should only be in the edit mode right now if my email ID, if I have permission to this business unit. You follow me? For which I think what I should do is I should go ahead, make this a little bigger, like so, right? I should make these a little bigger, and we can beautify this in real life, you know. So I'm going to call this business unit A. Okay, much the same way we call it in the table, business unit B. Then here it is business unit C, and then there it is going to be business unit D. Okay, so I'm going to go to business unit A, and I'm going to actually say the display mode if, and I'm going to use I'm going to use the filter command here. I'm going to say filter. So what am I filtering? I'm actually filtering the call users. So I'm going to filter the call users, and I'm going to use the email property. If the if I filter the call users, and I actually say the var user email, if var user email is in the email here, right? If filter that, then if the var user, if I, let me think through this a little bit. So I'm filtering if the var user email, hang with me for a second, if the var user email is in the, right, is in the dot, is in email equals var user email. Okay, that gives me still a table, isn't it? Then display mode, it doesn't want to do that, doesn't it? Because it needs to be a column. So if I were to say, I'm going to just delete this display mode.edit for now. So what are we trying to actually say here? We are matching business units by email, and then it should display this, right? So we are filtering the call users for the email equal to this, right? And then that should give me, let me do a quick check here. So if I were to go to a data table, I go to a data table here, and then I'm going to go to master security profiles. I don't want master security profiles. I actually don't want it. I want the collection, right? We want the collection here. So I'm going to actually say call What is the collection called? What is the collection called? The collection is called call users. So I'm going to say call users, right? And for some reason, it doesn't want to show that. Let me go to insert and go to data table here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to call users. It's a bit odd that it doesn't want to show me the data table. Let me put it down here, call users. Okay. If I say edit field, I'm going to say BU and email. So now it shows me the collection, and I'm going to actually say, filter call users, and then email equal to var user email, right? So now it shows me the business units that I'm responsible for, business unit B and business unit C, you see? So the idea is that if this business unit is part of B and C, which clearly it's not, then the display mode should be a edit. Otherwise, it should actually be, grayed out, right? That's the whole logic. So I'm going to say if the btna dot text is in the filter call users I need a column, isn't it? So call users email equals var user email dot bu. Okay, let me see, that seems to be okay. If that is the case, display mode dot edit, otherwise display mode dot disable. Okay, and voila. So what just happened here? So I'm telling the system that if the text here in this button BTNBU, if the text here, which is business unit A, is in the column called BU in the filtered list, which is this one, then it should display the button. Otherwise, it should actually disable the button. So clearly, business unit A is not in this column. In business, the columns here are business unit B and business unit C. So it is going to be grayed out. If I copy this command and then go over to the other button, and then I actually go to the display mode here. Where is my display mode? I'm going to go to display mode, which is display mode. Where's my display mode? And I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to say business unit B. So now it shows because business unit B is part of this particular filtering, right? So that shows. Now I'm going to go to business unit C, and I'm going to go to display mode. I'm going to copy this here, and then this is business unit C, and lo and behold, I can see business unit C. And when I go to business unit D and I put this formula down here, where is my business unit D? Display mode, like so, paste this, and this is business unit D. So now this business unit D text is in the column, in the filtered table. In this filtered table, it is actually in the business unit, because I can literally see, well, I mean, I don't see it, do I? I don't see the business unit D. I don't see it in this particular BU column, because I only have B and C. So now it is going to get grayed out, okay? So this is how, and then I can delete this table. This was more of a reference table for me. So when the user, when me, who is basically the MOD administrator, when I log in with my email, I can only have access to business unit B and business unit C because I don't have access to A and B. In fact, if you'd like, what you could also do is I could copy this whole statement and then I could put it in the visible property. So if I go to visible here, it says true, but I could basically make this invisible by saying that, hey, look, if this filters out, then don't even show the button, right? However, it actually shows me a delegation warning over here. Well, it basically is saying that, it's expecting a Boolean of true or false, but it doesn't matter in this case. It essentially goes away and then basically says, hey, look, you don't have access, so I'm not actually going to show you this, okay? Super. So this is an indirect true or false. So basically what this is saying is it's false and hence the button is not displaying. Okay, so you could do it that way too. You could either gray it out or you could actually how do you say, hide it completely. It just depends on your philosophy of your organization. Some people like to show users everything, right? I'm going to say true here. So some people like to show all the buttons to the users and then tell them which they have access to. Some people choose not to show the button at all so that the users doesn't even know that there is a business unit like. So it just depends on the philosophy that you folks actually practice, okay? So I trust this gives you an idea. And then if I click on this business unit, if I say on select over here, if I say on select, I can then make these buttons visible. As an example, I can actually say set var display as 1, and then I can basically go up here, and then in the actual sheet itself I can go to the visible property on visible, and then I can say set var display to be 0. So when you log into the screen, the var display is 0, and then I can go to the visible property of these buttons and then say var display equals 1. So these buttons are not going to be visible to begin with. They're just going to be visible, upon selection of the business unit, right? So I'm going to hide all these buttons for now, like so. And then when I play this, when I preview this, if I click on business unit B, then it actually shows me my buttons. And if I were to say new request, it goes away and actually brings me here, and then I can enter my data. Now, I can also go and do the same thing here is I can basically go to my transaction table, which let me do that from here. So this is the transaction expense table, edit this. So I can add a business unit to this one, and then I will only now be able to enter information about, the business unit that I'm responsible for, right? So if I go add a business unit, so let me add a business unit. I'm going to say text. I'm going to call this business unit, and then I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to go back to my app here, and then I'm going to refresh my transaction table, refresh it. So this gets refreshed. I'm going to go to my form here, edit fields, add field, BU, business unit. I'm going to add this like so, and then I'm going to move the business unit up all the way to the top here, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to default it. So when I go to the screen here, and when I select var display, and I'm going to actually say set var BU to be equal to the BU, what is this? This is BTN, this is B dot text, right? So that is going to be my business unit. So when I play this, when I click on business unit B, now my var BU is business unit B. And when I go to new request over here, by default, this business unit in my screen entry is if I were to open up the form and go to the business unit form, which is all the way down below here, I'm going to unlock this and I'm going to go to the data card value and I'm going to call this var BU, and automatically this picks up the business unit, right? It automatically picks up the business unit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make this display mode dot view only, right? This is going to be view only. Nobody can edit this. So if I play this now and if I make a new request, you see that it defaults to business unit B because that's what I clicked at the very beginning, right? I only have access now to business unit B, and then I select a particular country and then select a particular expense, let us say 400 ringgit, and then it's giving me my expense, and I go ahead and I actually save this request. And if I were to go to my end, this request is actually saved. If I go down here and refresh this, you see that my business unit is now captured. And then and because I've set up the security right at the start, at the very beginning, now I can only view my records when it comes to business unit B or business unit C, depending on the button that I've actually selected up front. Okay, I trust this gives you an idea of how business unit security is actually set up in the system. So just to recap, you go ahead, you set up a BU table or whatever it is that you're looking for, business unit, it could be country, so on and so forth. You set up that table first, you fill the entries out using a master table and a master screen within Power Apps. Then you actually create a security profiles table where you have that particular combination of either the business unit or the country or both or whatever, and the people who are responsible for it. That you do with a master screen in which I'm going to minimize everything here, in which you're actually going to go over and then you're going to link the title column as an example in the security to the primary column that is referencing the security, as an example the business unit or the country or something thereabouts. And then you use the Office 365 users in order for you to get the email ID of that particular person, and you create this particular table with the title and then with the, in this case, the business unit and email. So that's going to be a reference table. And then you go into your login screen and then you basically go to the app property and then you read into a collection that particular security profiles table that you just created with BU and email. And then on the buttons here, you would go to the display mode property, and then you would basically either show them or disable them based on the BU present in that particular security profile that you as a user have got access to. And then when you click on that particular business unit that you have access to, and when you enter into your transaction screen, you will only be able to enter records for that particular business unit. Okay, so I trust this gives you a 360 view of how to set up security. Wishing you the very best. Thank you very much.